Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today we're here at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, and we're sitting down with Brittany McGhee, who's the Assistant Director of Next Generation at the Council. And, we want to talk about what is going on here at the Council, why it relates to the Skev, and we're going to have a good discussion about that. So, Brittany, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Aaron. I really appreciate the invitation.
Well, this is a real treat for me. We're up here on the stage of the Council's Conference Center, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. So what is the Chicago Council on Global Affairs?
Good question. The Chicago Council on Global Affairs is an independent, nonpartisan organization that strives to provide insight on global issues and really works to inform members of the council as well as members of the public within the Chicagoland area about the latest trends in foreign policy, current events that we see in the news, and to provide context to those events and really foster a dialogue around solutions to global challenges and get people engaged in a discussion about how foreign policy is affecting, obviously, the global landscape, but also our national priorities, and of course, really, really impacting folks here in Chicago. So the council is a platform for folks who are interested in global issues, interested in climate change, interested in national security, interested in the global economy, to come and have really robust discussions about what's going on as it relates to those issues, and also to meet people who are also interested in talking about those things. So in addition to the council's platform, we are a network of people within the city of Chicago and the wider Chicagoland area who are passionate about having this discussion and really passionate about exploring these global issues.
And about how many people are members of the council?
So the council has about 5,000 members, which is pretty exciting, and our members range from any sort of profession you can think of. We have physicians that are members. We have folks that work in government that are members. We have folks who work in the finance sector, the nonprofit sector. We have educators and students who are members. And I'll point out specifically, as I just mentioned, students, that of that 5,000 folks, just shy of 2,000 of those members are young professionals. So folks that are working in their sort of early or mid career level who are just passionate about global affairs and want to meet other people who like to discuss global issues and network and really just have a good time in the city.
Just to tie it in with what I'm doing here and why I'm interested, I'm also a member of the Chicago Council and a young professional here.
You are?
And, this has been a great avenue to meet other people who are like-minded and want to know what's going on. And some of the things that you do here are, have people come in and speak, and you do research, but who are some of the people that have come in to talk at the council?
So the council hosts programs, so public programs that anyone can come to. We have about 100 of those programs each year. And so some of those programs will have one speaker, some of them will have a panel of speakers. And our speakers are often scholars who are experts in foreign policy. They are often practitioners who are really doing the work to address some of the issues that we talk about on our stage. And then often they are heads of state or policymakers who are really sort of at the forefront of pushing these issues. So recently we've been really excited to host General Jim Mattis. He's been here obviously to talk about national security issues. We've been really happy to host Samantha Power. You will remember her as she served as the Secretary to the United Nations. And we've also hosted Vice President Joe Biden, who obviously right now is running for president. So we've had really heavy hitters on our stage who have the sort of expertise and bandwidth to not just give a sort of cursory explanation of global affairs, but to really sort of offer from there in the room where it happens, often expertise about issues related to, again, the economy, national security, and wider global landscape.
Yeah. The first event that I went to, I think was late 2015, and Gary Kasparov came to speak. And, he's the great chess master, but also very, big in pro-democracy. And he had a book coming out then, Winter is Coming.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting of how things have shaped since then in the world. And that really inspired me to get involved. So I think it's, some of these speakers that come in, you get a whole new insight about what's going on in the world, and it can help shape your way of understanding things.
Yeah, well, I mean, many would say winter has come. And since then, we have a lot of conversations at the council about the state of global democracy, what that looks like, the various sort of responses to the rise in some cases of democracy globally, but on the whole, a sort of sense of decline in democracy and what that means for various nations and their citizens as we sort of enter this new landscape on the global stage. Yeah, and really thinking about a rise as we see it in authoritarianism and what that means. Is that a sort of blip, or is this a sort of theme or new trend that will continue to flourish in many countries throughout the world?
And one of the themes of some of the speakers that have been coming in is Democracy 2020, where you're having people come in who are candidates, right? Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So the council is very interested in providing, again, independent, nonpartisan, but really balanced perspectives on the state of democracy as an example of one of the issues. Obviously, in the United States, there's an election in 2020, but the U.S. is not the only country having an election in 2020. So we thought to have a sort of programmatic theme of democracy in 2020, whereby we will and have hosted candidates running for the office of the president in the United States, but also are really exploring the sort of like wider issues that will touch elections all over the world. And again, those are, protests and movements for freedom. Those are, freedom of speech and other sort of civil rights. Those are, issues that are pertaining to cities, urban violence, climate change. How are, spaces in the world really reacting to the current political climate in their nation, and what does that mean for the elections that will take place this year?
One thing that I found really interesting recently is that on one of the latest podcasts that the council hosts, the Deep Dish podcast, you had the head of the International Red Cross, and he was talking about how they typically go out to cities, or they go out to different areas where there's warfare going on, but they've kind of shifted their focus to be on cities, and they're actually coming and doing research and working within Chicago and other large metropolises around the world. And it's interesting to kind of shift the focus a little bit that way, too. And it's just an interesting insight that the council provides.
Yeah. So you mentioned cities, and earlier mentioned that the council does research. We have a broad research portfolio, but are really hone in in 4 different areas. So we do a lot of work on cities. We also do a lot of work on global food and agriculture. We do obviously work on national security, as it's super important, and also the global economy. So our sort of one of our signature research areas is global cities. Because that we know that the majority of the world's population will soon live in urban spaces. So what does that actually mean? What does that mean for the world's resources? What does that mean for migration and the movement of peoples, et cetera, et cetera? But we also have seen and are seeing currently, when you look at the biggest issues that are, have historically been framed as global issues, so climate change, national security, addressing terrorism, that's a hot one right now. We have come to find that cities are on the forefront of those issues. You saw over the weekend the police department in New York and the police department in Los Angeles were one of the two first municipal Twitter accounts to respond to the news in coming out of Iraq and Iran. So to say, hey, we actually know what's going on. We've received no threats. We just want to make sure that our citizens know that we are abreast of the situation and keeping a pulse on it. So for a city level office to be really, really responsive in terms of what is, quite frankly, a national security issue is part of what the council is interested in exploring.
Yeah, it's interesting how connected, what may happen on the street here to something that happened 8,000 miles away.
Right.
Yeah, and some of the things that the council does are these large symposiums multiple times a year, right?
Yes. So we have 3 major symposium events. Our first one is comes out of our Women in Global Equity program at the council. So the council also does research and programming on women and global development issues. So we have in September a symposium where we gather leaders in the global development space and have a day-long discussion on the latest sort of trends in terms of the increases in global development and how and in the ways in which women and gender equity are very hyper-connected with global development generally. Our second symposium takes place in March. It is the council's only major event outside of Chicago, so it takes place each year in Washington, D.C., and is centered around global food and agriculture. So we bring, obviously, some of the leading stakeholders in food systems and agrotech and agrobusiness and policy around global food and agriculture to this symposium, but also folks, innovators and entrepreneurs who are located around the world who are working in this space to come and have a really robust 2-day discussion on global food systems.
Makes sense that Chicago has that we're doing this with the agriculture because we're kind of the center of agriculture for the United States.
Completely. And honestly, it's really one of the sort of more niche pieces of the council's portfolio. As a think tank located in the Midwest, we have to focus on global food and agriculture. We feel like this is, Chicago, this is the Midwest, and that is a completely relevant issue to citizens in this area, but also really, really important as you think about national security, as you think about climate change and the environment. So it touches all of the issues that the council has research and programming on and is really sort of rooted in the Midwest.
Right. And then you also have the Global Cities Forum.
Right. Yeah. So we have a forum on global cities. We bring city leaders and mayors and folks who are working on the sort of like scholarship of cities, as I've just talked about, to Chicago for, again, a 3-day event where we talk about, anything from migration and how that affects cities and their policies and how they are sort of positioned in the world, to technology and the intersection between emerging technologies and security of cities or the advancement of cities, and really sort of thinking about how these cities across the world are becoming actors, major players in national security.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing the types of people that you bring in from all over the world. And last year I met people from around the world who are doing work in cities, young professionals or people who are even, student delegations. And the things that they're working on, it's like so futuristic And it's really cool to bring all those ideas together so people can learn from that. It's amazing.
It is really amazing. I think one of the things that attracts a lot of young professionals to the council is, after you've graduated college or studied abroad or been in, a professional space for a few years, there's sort of like a hunger that reemerges where you're just really, really wanting and yearning to continue to learn and to be in a space where there's dialogue and conversation that provides new insight or new perspectives on things that you may be really familiar with or things that you sort of just became interested in. And to do that alongside, peers who are equally as interested in learning about those topics is just really phenomenal.
It is. It's all firsthand. It's just, from the source, you're getting that information. And that's what I found. And what is your role here at the council?
So the Next Generation department at the council is really sort of the home of all of these young people that I've been talking about. So it's part of the council's mission, obviously, to, inform the public about global issues, but we have a specific mandate here at the council to prepare the next generation of leaders to take the mantle in terms of global leadership. And so in that vein, the council has specific programming designed for young professionals. We create specific events, networking, and otherwise that are geared for our young professional audience so that we can put them in the room together and say, hey, get to know each other, have conversations about, what's going on in the news, also talk about how that may or may not intersect with the work that you're doing professionally, and have the opportunity to meet folks who, quite frankly, you just might not have encountered in the city before. And so have this sort of common thread of being interested in global issues. My role specifically at the council is to really help lead that effort. So I run the Young Professionals program at the council. I, along with a number of colleagues in our programming department, think about, interesting topics that young professionals might want to learn and talk about. So to name a few that we've done in the past, we, have talked about political prisoners globally and the legality around that. We've talked about emerging technologies and how young innovators are really sort of changing the landscape in terms of the technology space.
I want to hit on that. I actually went to the event where you're talking about AI and robotics, and you had some of the robots here for people to see and play with. And I brought my kids, who are now 7 and 9, but they were a year ago, I think, or two, and they remember it. It's I don't really see many children here, but I think it's a really great way for people to kind of get into that space and start to learn about, anything.
Totally. Yeah. We've got programming coming up on climate change and really sort of focusing on resilience to climate change. Are we sort of at a point that's there's no turning back? Are we at a point of no return? Hope not. But let's discuss it. Let's debate it, and let's talk about how resilience can be actually put to practice here and around the world. So really thinking about content that young people are interested in because it touches their lives or because it's just something that is a major dominant theme in the foreign policy space. And then again, also providing those opportunities for folks to meet each other. I mean, I know a lot of YPs, we call our young professionals YPs, who are looking for employment opportunities, who are looking to advance in their career, who are looking to make friends and, find that in the Council Young Professionals Network. So just really finding community in addition to content that is riveting and interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a great group of interesting people who are here and who come to learn about it. What got you into this, into global affairs? How did you get interested in it, and what did you do to prepare for this position?
Yeah. So in college, I volunteered. I went to college in Baltimore, Maryland on the East Coast, and I volunteered at a tutoring and mentoring program for recently resettled refugees. And it was a really formative experience for me. I later went on to work for the program that I initially had volunteered with, and really sort of cemented that I was very, very interested in, what was going on beyond the borders of the U.S. and more so how, the policies of this country were impacting peoples all around the world. And so went on to sort of study that in graduate school and worked in nonprofits who were also doing international work, and then really wanted to sort of like combine what had up until that point been a very like nonprofit-y program management career with some more content development and a more academic space. And so I knew about the council from grad school. I went to the University of Chicago in Hyde Park, and that's when I initially learned about it. And really sort of wanted to be here, to be in this environment. And so I think it's just been a really perfect opportunity for me to combine what I'm passionate about with, things that I'm good at. I love creating content. I love creating platforms for people to meet each other. I love connecting folks and really allowing folks the opportunity to deepen their own engagement and broaden their own perspectives and really foster their own leadership, because that's, also what this is about. That's
the goal of it. I mean, you must meet the most interesting people and have such a great network because of that.
I mean, yeah, Chicago's a pretty phenomenal place, and I know many of your listeners are in Skokie and Evanston, and I'll note that a ton of our members live in the Skev, basically. So it's just a great opportunity to meet people who, again, like aren't your cubicle mate, but are really interesting and are rising sort of leaders in Chicagoland.
Yeah, it's given me a whole different perspective being involved here, which is, I think, that anybody can really pick up on if they come here and get involved. So one of the ways that you guys get more people more involved, which is there are a couple programs, and one of which I'm a part of, the Young Professional Ambassador Program, and then there's the Emerging Leaders Program.
Yes.
Right? So what do each of those do?
Yeah.
And how do you get involved in that?
Yeah. So the Young Professional Ambassador cohort is essentially a young professional, the council's Young Professionals Board. So it is a cohort of anywhere from 30 to 40 of our young professional members who are just really passionate about the council's mission and are wanting to get more deeply engaged with the work of the council. And so this group is a select group of leaders who leverage their own personal networks, personal and professional networks. They make introductions to new members, to speakers on behalf of the council. They really sort of represent the council to Chicago and Chicagoland. So they are like the face of our organization in a sense. And they're also sort of the voice of the next generation here at the council. So the council looks to them deeply for counsel and advice about programming, about fundraising, and honestly about how to sustain this really robust program that we've been able to build over the years. So they're a really vital part of the Young Professionals program here. They are a fun and enthusiastic group of people.
For sure.
And it's really a space, and you could probably say more about this, Aaron, but it's really a space for young people who, want to be deeply involved in an organization, want to support an organization, and really want a sort of like tight-knit network of people who are as invested as they are in pushing forward the mission of the council. And so for our organization, we've had YP ambassadors for like 3 decades now. And we've been able to have folks who've, served as YP ambassadors and who've gone on to be board directors at the council, or who have gone on to be partners at their law firm, or to run for office locally. And what they've found here is a network. They've found leadership development, skills that are not necessarily what they're gaining in their employment. And again, an opportunity to, put passion into practice. So it's a really, really fun way to get engaged. And I know a lot of young people in Evanston, in Skokie, in Chicago are like wanting something to really stick their teeth into, to really sort of get engaged and be active in the city. And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I will speak to that. I mean, when I went to that Gary Kasparov event, I went with one of my friends, and afterwards I said, this is so cool. I said, I knew about the organization for years because I went to college in Champaign, and I was involved in this program called ACTIS, which is Arms Control, Domestic and International Security. And I thought I would get into that realm, and I ended up going into real estate development, and I didn't really pursue that side of my passion. And then I had some more time around that time to get involved here. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get involved and be more involved in this organization, but I will. So then when I saw the invitation to apply to become a young ambassador, I said, this is perfect. And I applied, and I was shocked that I was accepted. I was honored.
We were happy to receive your application,
Thank
Aaron.
You. Well, it was very cool. And it has been a great way to network and to be able to, learn more about, what you're doing or what you want to do. I mean, I've totally tried to delve into this whole other area of interest that I've had. And I think that, it's similar probably to, a bunch of other people who've gotten involved here. And I mean, the time commitment for what I see is more so, if you like coming and hearing these things and meeting people who are the newsmakers and, getting a great network, it doesn't feel like a chore by any means,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a fulfilling sort of engagement, right? I mean, I think there are a lot of opportunities to support nonprofits and organizations in the city. And I think civic and philanthropic engagement, especially for young people, is really, really important. And I am really happy that the council offers a premier, to be honest, sort of opportunity for young people to get engaged, to sort of see what it's like to be a philanthropic leader, to see what it's like to be in a community that is sort of like has a responsibility to advance an organization's mission. I think that's a different sort of behavior than just like showing up to your job every day, doing your job, collecting your paycheck and going to brunch on the weekends. This is outside of that, right? This is, I actually care about this. And I think, that my participation and my leadership will make something better, will make this better.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I feel like it's definitely gotten me involved with Chicago, representing Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
One of the cool things that, I discovered as just delving into this is just global real estate. There's this whole world of connecting people and whatnot. And I went on this trade mission to Thailand last year, and I was, one of the things I did was I tried to also promote the council while I was there and showing the connection while in Thailand and Vietnam. And it was very cool to be able to show the scope of how far the council reaches, even just as a member going out to these places and the interest level. And but it's so cool. And right now there's applications that are open. So if you want to become part of the join the cohort of people who are young professionals, you can go online and apply. So where should people go to do that?
Yeah, now's the time. We welcome a new cohort each year. And as you mentioned, we have our applications are open. Applications are open now through Friday, January 17th. And the application is pretty simple. We just want to know who you are and why, you're interested in global issues and what sort of skills and ideas you can bring to support the work of the council. So you can apply online. The council's website is thechicagoCouncil.org/YP. And the application can be found there. And, it's really, again, a great opportunity. We get a lot of people who are interested each year and are thankful, right? Because it signals to us that, people are hungry for community in the city. People are really hungry to sort of be involved in the dialogue about what's going on in the world, and that's important. And so I would say that the Young Professional Ambassadors cohort really sort of reinforces the reason that the council exists to start. And so it's a really sort of phenomenal opportunity if you are looking for something in terms of leadership in the new year.
Yeah, and just so people know, the council is nonpartisan. The whole charge really of the council is to make sure that that Chicago and the United States stays involved in the global conversation and doesn't become isolationist, because It was started 100 years ago when there was a huge push for isolationism. So, no matter what political party you subscribe to, you could be part of this and, be valued.
Yeah. It started nearly 100 years ago by a group of individuals who saw a time, such as this, to be frank.
Sure.
And said, we need to have a dialogue. We need to talk about engaging in the world. We need to talk about how U.S. leadership and policies of the United States obviously affect what's going on globally, but how we can sort of create a global system that is, equitable, that really does work to make a sort of prosperous community for everyone. And so I think the mission of the council is really relevant right now, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity for folks who are really not interested in having political conversations, or trying to, have one dialogue that is above the fray of Twitter. This is definitely the space for that.
Yeah, it's a much better space than being on Twitter. It could drive you nuts.
Get off Twitter.
I'll try. Another program is the Emerging Leaders Program, and there's a difference between Young Professional Ambassador Program and the Emerging Leaders Program. One obviously is the cost, but there's a huge value to being part of that. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So the Emerging Leaders Program is a leadership development training program for rising professionals in the city. So individuals who are for sure mid-career, but really sort of like rising in their respective career to the C-suite partner, CEO level, who are looking for a very finite and specific leadership development training. So our emerging leaders are a cohort of 20 individuals between the ages of 30 and 40, and they embark on a 1-year curriculum where they really take a deep dive into foreign policy issues. They cover any and everything from climate change to national security to Chicago, and meet with and discuss and are in debate with leading experts in those areas. And so it's an opportunity for folks who are soon to be sort of at the helm of their company or at the helm of their organization to really root themselves in a discussion and a sort of expertise around how policy is made, and how the sort of national or international landscape affects their business, their nonprofit organization, their political campaign. So we are in the sort of 11th year of the program. We've had over 200 individuals come through the program over the past decade. And again, we've had the cream of the crop.
Who are some of the people that have gone through the program?
I mean, you may know some of them. You might know Sean Casten, who is an elected official in the Chicagoland area. Raja Krishnamurthy, who is currently in Congress. I'm sure you've seen him on CNN, especially as of late.
In person here.
We have folks who are at the helm at the McCormick Foundation in Chicago and MacArthur. We have folks who have, ran the Chicago Food Depository. We have folks who are on, again, the council's board of directors, and really high-level leaders in the corporate space in Chicago as well. So it's a really great opportunity for companies and organizations to put forth a leader within their organization that they've identified as someone who is really rising and wanting to make an investment in their leadership and their sort of skill development through the program.
And then you have some information sessions coming up for the Emerging Leaders Program. I know the one on January 21st is sold out, I believe.
But there is another one. The one on January 21st is sold out, but there is another one on February 4th.
Yes. So, people should definitely check that out.
Yes, it's definitely a great, it's really quick. It's about an hour long, and it's an opportunity to learn about the program. You will undoubtedly have, sort of a lot of questions about what folks are always interested in, what the Emerging Leaders Program can do for them in their career. And it's a great space to sort of ask questions about that. And, to be honest, we've seen the results of the program in terms of folks really sort of reaching the higher echelons of their career after the experience of the Emerging Leaders Year.
Well, you're getting a great network by doing that, by
Correct.
Getting in there. I mean, that's that's why a lot of people do graduate school programs, and here it's, very high level and it's incredibly interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And also there's the YP Town Hall that's coming up, talking about what will 2020 bring. But I think that's another great event to learn about what the council does. Yeah.
So the YP Town Hall is an annual off-the-record event. It is hosted with the council president, Ambassador Evil Dalder, and it's an opportunity to really get an inside scoop on what's going on in the world. This year will be particularly exciting because, again, we're starting a new obviously starting a new year, but starting a new decade. And if you have not been under a rock in recent weeks, we are off to a great start.
Yeah.
That was not meant to be a pun, but there you go. Bum.
Yeah.
It's, so it's a great opportunity to sort of ask those pressing questions about what will happen or what might happen in the next year, and to also have an opportunity to express your own ideas. We at the council, things are a dialogue, right? Like, it is a very unique opportunity to be able to present your ideas to a leading expert as well as sort of receive information. And so we're excited to have a platform where we foster a discussion and not just sort of like a one-way diatribe.
Right. And I mean, the person who's the head of the council, Evil Dalder, is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's definitely versed in national security,
a little bit.
I'd say.
Yeah, and that's January 16th at 6 p.m. If my parents are listening, you'll have to watch the kids that night. I know they do. So
I will also say, as we will be discussing the foreign policy trends of 2020, there is a cash bar in the conference center. So if you need a glass of wine to take an edge off of the predictions there, that is available.
Definitely. Well, there's a lot of different ways to get involved here. I mean, you could apply to be a young ambassador. If you have questions about it, anyone can ask me, ask Brittany. I'm happy to discuss it. There's the emerging leaders. There's coming to programs. There's listening to Deep Dish, the podcast. You could watch most of these events also online. They're on YouTube and they're streamed live, and you could even comment and ask questions from anywhere in the world. And I think that's so cool that the council allows so many different ways to get involved and read the reports that they publish.
Yeah. And then also become a member. So the council
let's not forget.
is a membership organization. We have, a large community of members who are just really phenomenal. And if you're interested in, global issues, if you are wanting to sort of engage in this community, definitely look at membership at the council. It is an investment in your own sort of development, but also an investment in, again, a platform and organization that is really striving to push a dialogue that, frankly, personally, I think is really needed in the city.
Yeah. And I think it's an investment in the city of Chicago and the region, because I think that this organization puts us on the map around the world, in terms of business discussion, having a say. And I think it's a huge, important thing. And, if you're a student, there's student rates.
Totally.
If you're a young professional, how much does it cost to be?
So if you're a student, membership is $40, and that's an annual membership. So you pay $40 once and you're a member for a year, and you can attend most programs completely for free. So it's a great opportunity if you're an undergrad or a graduate student to get engaged. Most of our programs are in the evenings, so you can go after class. If you miss a program, again, we live stream them so you can see them in live time, but you can also watch them later. Our Young Professionals Network, again, there's nearly 2,000 YP members in our network. Membership beyond student membership begins at $100. And so again, that's an annual membership donation. I will say it's completely worth it. It's an investment, obviously, in the council, as you said, Aaron,
sure.
But I think an investment in the city as well. And membership is a tax-deductible charitable donation. So if you're looking for a way to, again, just be civically engaged in Chicago and also get a significant amount of benefits, this is it.
Yeah, and also if you have the wherewithal, there are higher levels like the President's Club memberships where you can get further access to some of the people coming in and some incredible opportunities of meeting these people who are really the newsmakers.
Yeah, if you are interested in dinner with Nobel Prize winners and shaking hands with Samantha Power, having breakfast
meeting
with ambassadors,
Albright.
I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to hobnob with the who's who of foreign policy.
It's pretty cool. Well, Brittany, this has been awesome. Just to remind everyone, what's the website for the council?
thechicagocouncil.org.
Okay. Well, everyone, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks so much, everyone, for listening to this latest episode of Inside the Skev. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to know more about the Skev and more about what I do as a real estate agent in the area, go to skevinson.com. They got a lot of great information there about exciting guests that have been on the show, live events that are coming up, and any type of information that you're looking for. And if you have any suggestions or questions for me, feel free to email me at aaron@skevinson.com. Always happy to hear from people. And thanks so much for listening, and please subscribe.